Was he going to write here? A montage of R-rated scenes flashed through my mind. His warm breath brushed my ear. And every nerve in my body lit up like a faulty hospital monitor. For a second, I forgot we were in an exam room. Forgot my mom was outside. Forgot I was half undressed and childish. My melody pajamas while he was in that crisp, unfairly attractive white coat. I'd imagined this moment 100 times in the past 2 months. Not like this, but close enough. Cole leaning in, his voice low. His hands on me, not as a doctor. As mine. But the words he whispered were anything but gentle. We never went all the way. So why haven't you had your period in 2 months? His tone was sharp, accusatory. Like he'd already made up his mind. Like he'd caught me red-handed. I froze under the ultrasound probe. The cold gel on my stomach felt like ice, compared to the heat rushing to my face. Cold shoe. He pressed a finger lightly to my lips. Still in doctor mode, but his eyes were dark, unreadable. Don't lie to me. Not here. Not now. The ultrasound machine hummed quietly. He moved the probe slowly, methodically across my lower abdomen. His expression perfectly neutral again. Any trace of the man who'd once kissed me until I couldn't breathe was gone, buried under professionalism and resentment. I lay there helpless as he studied the screen. Every second felt like an hour. If he found nothing, if he confirmed I wasn't pregnant, then what? Would he go back to hating me? To believing I'd moved on in 2 months? To thinking I'd replaced him so easily? The truth was, I hadn't replaced him. I couldn't. I'd spent 10 days chasing him. After that disastrous first night at the bar. I'd given up strip clubs, spicy takeout, late-night fried chicken, all for him. I'd let him lecture me about lung health and iced milk tea and ginger ale tonics. I'd let him rearrange my entire life because I liked him. No. Loved him more than I'd ever loved anyone. And then he'd broken up with me. Just like that. I was too wild. Too reckless, too much. He was too busy, too important. Didn't have time for someone like me. So I'd fired back with the cruelest lines I could think of. I'd made him think I didn't care. That I'd throw him away like a used bandage. It was the worst mistake of my life. You're being awfully quiet, he murmured, still staring at the screen. Afraid of what I'll find. I'm not afraid of anything. I snapped, defensive. Except you misdiagnosing me because you're still mad. I dumped you, his fingers stilled. You dumped me, he laughed. Cold and bitter. That's a new version. I must have missed the memo. You said you didn't have time for me. That I was holding you back. I shot back, my voice rising despite myself. You ended it first. I just made it hurt less. He went silent. The probe continued moving. Slow and deliberate. Outside the curtain. My mom coughed. The distant beep of a machine. A nurse's footsteps. We were both trapped in this tiny curtain corner of the world. The ex-boyfriend who'd become my doctor. And the ex-girlfriend who might be carrying his secret. Except we hadn't even gone all the way. The logic should have calmed me. It didn't be because I knew Cole. I knew how his mind worked. Once he got an idea stuck in his head, he wouldn't let it go. And right now, his head was filled with one thought. I'd cheated. I'd moved on. I was pregnant by someone else. The ultrasound machine beeped softly. His jaw tightened. I held my breath well. I whispered, "Am I dying? Am I pregnant? Am I just fat from eating too much spicy crawfish?" No response. He just kept staring at the screen. His face unreadable. His knuckles were white again, like he was holding back from slamming his fist into something. "Cole," I said softer. "Talk to me." He finally pulled the probe away and wiped the gel off my stomach with a paper towel. His movements rough, impersonal. "Pull your pants up," he said flatly. "We're done here." "That's it." I sat up, clutching my shirt. "You're not even gonna tell me what's wrong." "I'll write you a referral." He avoided my eyes. "For a gynecologist who isn't personally involved." "You're personally involved because you're being an idiot." I snapped, forgetting where I was. "I told you there is no other guy." "There never was. I haven't slept with anyone except you." And we didn't even finish. He flinched for half a second. His mask cracked. I saw it. Pain, longing, regret, all flashing across his face before he locked it down again. "Save it," he said coldly. "I don't want to hear it." He turned and walked out from behind the curtain, his white coat swishing behind him. My mom immediately stood up, her face full of hope. "How is she, doctor? Is she pregnant? Is everything okay?" Cole's expression was gentle again. The perfect reassuring doctor. The entire waiting room gushed over the man I'd once had all to myself. "Physical exam is fine," he said smoothly. "No immediate concerns. I've ordered a blood test to rule out pregnancy and a few other checks. We'll have results within 24 hours. My mom sighed in relief. "Thank goodness. I was so worried, Mom." I cut her off, pulling my shirt down. "Can you go get the paperwork? I need to talk to Dr. Jacobs alone for a second." She gave me a look but nodded and headed out. The second the door closed, the atmosphere in the room turned toxic again. Cole was leaning against the counter, his arms crossed, staring at me like I was a particularly annoying patient. "What do you want, Ashley?" "I want you to listen to me for once," I said, stepping toward him. "Just listen. No interruptions. No assumptions, no acting like you know everything." He didn't move, didn't speak. But he didn't walk away either. "That was something. I didn't cheat on you," I said quietly. "I didn't meet someone else. I didn't get knocked up. I haven't so much as held hands with another guy since you." His jaw tightened. "And why did you say those things to me?" His voice was low, dangerous. "Why did you tell me you'd never look at me again? Unless I was on my deathbed? Why did you walk away like I meant nothing?" "Because you broke up with me first," I exclaimed, frustration boiling over. "You told me you were too busy. That I was too much, that you couldn't handle me. What was I supposed to do, beg? Cry, follow you around the hospital like a lost puppy?" His expression softened just a little. "I didn't mean it like that," he said quietly. "Then how did you mean it?" I challenged him. "Tell me." "Because I spent 2 months trying to figure it out. 2 months eating garbage. And staying up late and pretending I was fine. 2 months hating myself for letting you go. For the first time since I'd walked into that room." Cole looked genuinely caught off guard. "You hated yourself? Are you kidding?" I laughed bitterly. "I chased you for 10 days straight. After I groped you at a bar I thought was a strip club. I gave up everything I liked just to make you happy. I even drank that disgusting ginger tea you forced on me. And then you dumped me. Of course. I hated myself." He stared at me speechless. I took another step closer until we were almost touching. I could smell his cologne. The same one he'd worn when we first met. The one that used to drive me crazy. "I didn't want to let you see how much it hurt," I whispered. "So I acted like I didn't care. Like I was too wild, too free. Too busy living my best life to miss you. But I missed you every single day. Cole. Every single day. His eyes flicked down to my lips. In that moment, I thought he was going to kiss me. I wanted him to. But then his phone rang again. That horrible ringtone, the one about breaking up with dignity. And the spell shattered. He glanced at the screen and his face turned stormy. Who is it? I asked. Suspicious. No one, he said. Quickly silencing it. It's not no one. I pressed. Earlier. You said someone texted you. What text? What did they say? Cole hesitated for a second. I saw real fear in his eyes. It doesn't matter, he said. It matters to me, I insisted. Did someone lie to you? Did they tell you I was seeing someone else? Is that why you believed I was pregnant so fast? He looked away. Cole. I said softer, tell me the truth. He finally turned back to me. His expression dark. 2 weeks after we broke up. I got an anonymous text, he said slowly. It said you'd already moved on. That you were with someone new. That you'd never cared about me at all. My heart dropped. Who sent it? I don't know, he said. No name, no number. Just a message and a photo. My blood ran cold. What photo? He hesitated, then pulled up his gallery and showed me. It was a picture of me outside a club. Laughing. With my arm loosely wrapped around a guy I didn't even recognize. I'd been out with friends celebrating the breakup. Or trying to. The guy was just a random stranger who'd offered to take a photo. But in the picture, it looked like we were together. Like I'd moved on. I thought it was real, Cole said quietly. I thought you'd replaced me that quickly. I didn't. I grabbed his arm. Cole, that's not what it looks like. I was just out with friends. I don't even know that guy. He stared at me, searching my face for a lie. And then slowly he seemed to realize I was telling the truth. All the anger, all the coldness. All the resentment, it drained out of him in an instant. He looked exhausted. Heartbroken, like he'd been carrying this pain for 2 months. Just like I had. I'm sorry. He whispered. I should have asked you. I should have trusted you. I swallowed hard. Why didn't you? Because I was scared, he admitted. Scared you really were too wild for me. Scared you'd get bored. Scared you'd leave me for someone who wasn't always at the hospital. Someone who wasn't so strict. So boring. You're not boring. I said immediately. You're you. I liked you even when you were lecturing me about fried chicken. Even when you were stealing my ice drinks. Even when you were being a total control freak. A faint, sad smile tugged at his lips. You're impossible, he said. I know, I said. But I'm yours if you'll have me. For a long moment, he just looked at me. The harsh fluorescent lights of the exam room seemed to soften, narrowing the universe down to just the space between us. I could hear the faint hum of the air conditioning, the distant chatter of nurses in the hallway, but it all felt a million miles away. Cole reached out, his hand hesitating for a fraction of a second before his long fingers gently brushed a stray lock of hair behind my ear. His touch was warm, slightly rough from washing his hands a dozen times a day, and it sent a familiar, electric jolt straight to my chest. I've been an idiot, he breathed, the admission sounding like it physically pained him to say. Yeah, I agreed softly, leaning into his touch just a little. You really have. A genuine, albeit tired, smile finally broke through his guarded expression. He stepped closer, closing the remaining distance between us. Suddenly, the pristine white doctor's coat didn't feel like a barrier anymore. it felt like a blanket I wanted to wrap myself in. I missed you, Ashley. His voice dropped an octave, scraping against my senses in the best possible way. God, you have no idea. Every time I saw a girl drinking iced milk tea outside the hospital, I looked for you. Every time my pager went off at 2 a.m., I wished it was you calling to complain about some ridiculous reality show. Even though I'm wild and reckless? I teased, though my voice trembled. Especially because you are, he murmured, his thumb tracing the line of my jaw. I tilted my head up, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. His eyes, usually so calculated and sharp, were dark and entirely focused on my mouth. I held my breath, waiting for the inevitable, waiting for the kiss that would erase the last 2 months of misery. The doorknob rattled. We sprang apart like two guilty teenagers right as the heavy wooden door swung inward. My mom bustled in, waving a stack of paperwork in her hand, completely oblivious to the thick, charged tension hanging in the air. "All right, Dr. Jacobs, the front desk said you needed these signed for the blood work," she announced cheerfully, oblivious to the fact that Cole was suddenly intensely interested in reorganizing a box of tongue depressors on the counter. "Yes, thank you, Mrs. Lynn," Cole said, his voice instantly snapping back to its smooth, professional cadence. He cleared his throat, adjusting his stethoscope. "The lab is down the hall on the right. They'll draw the blood, and I'll call you tomorrow with the results." My mom beamed at him. "Thank you so much, doctor. You have wonderful bedside manner. Are you single, by any chance?" I physically choked on my own saliva. "Mom," I wheezed, my face burning so hot I thought I might spontaneously combust. "Stop. We are leaving. Right now." Cole's lips twitched, fighting a losing battle against a smirk. He looked at my mother, then let his gaze slide to me, his eyes dancing with amusement. "Actually, Mrs. Lynn, I'm currently trying to win back someone very special. It's a work in progress." My mom's face fell slightly, a look of genuine disappointment crossing her features. "Oh, what a shame for the single girls out there." "Well, good luck, doctor. Whoever she is, she's a lucky woman." "I'm the lucky one," Cole said softly, looking right at me. I grabbed my purse so fast I nearly knocked over a jar of cotton swabs. "Okay. Blood work. Let's go." I grabbed my mom by the elbow and practically dragged her out of the room. As I pulled the door shut behind me, I caught one last glimpse of Cole. He was leaning against the counter, his arms crossed, watching me go with a look that promised this conversation was far from over. The next 24 hours were pure torture. The blood draw was quick, but waiting for the results felt like an eternity. Not because I thought I was actually pregnant, I knew I wasn't. But because Cole had to be the one to call me. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart leaped into my throat, only to plummet when it turned out to be a spam email or a text from my best friend, Chloe, asking if I wanted to get margaritas. I spent the evening pacing my apartment, overthinking every single word of our conversation in the clinic. We hadn't technically gotten back together. He hadn't said "I love you." He hadn't even kissed me. What if he woke up the next morning and his logical, practical brain decided that taking me back was a terrible idea? What if he realized that dealing with my chaotic energy wasn't worth the headache? By 4 p.m. the next day, I was lying face down on my rug, dramatically contemplating becoming a nun, when my phone finally rang. It wasn't a clinic number. It was Cole's personal cell. I scrambled to grab it, nearly dropping the phone on my face in the process. I cleared my throat, trying to sound casual and entirely unbothered. "Hello?" "Ashley," his voice came through the speaker, crisp and clear. Just hearing my name in his voice made my stomach do flip-flops. "It's Cole." "I know," I said, rolling onto my back and staring at the ceiling. "Do I have a medical emergency, Dr. Jacobs? Or are you calling for personal reasons?" I heard him exhale a soft laugh on the other end. "A little bit of both." Your blood work came back. You're not pregnant. Shocker, I deadpanned. However, he continued, his tone shifting into something a bit more clinical, your iron levels are abysmal, your vitamin D is practically non-existent, and your cortisol levels suggest you've been living off stress and caffeine. So, I'm just a mess, basically. You're malnourished, he corrected gently. Which explains the missed periods. Stress and a poor diet can wreak havoc on your cycle. Have you been eating properly since we stopped seeing each other? I bit my lip. The truth was, I had barely eaten a real meal in 2 months. I'd survived on instant noodles and spite. I muttered defensively. Instant ramen doesn't count, Ashley. Are you stocking my trash cans now? I don't need to. I know you. There was a brief pause, the line crackling faintly. I'm off shift at 7. Let me come over and cook for you. My heart did a violent somersault. Cook for me? I echoed, sitting up so fast I got a head rush. Like, boil water for ginger tea, or actually cook? Actually cook. Real food. Proteins, vegetables, things your body desperately needs. His voice softened. And, we need to finish our conversation from yesterday. Please, Ash. Ash. The nickname melted the last lingering walls of my resistance. Fine, I said, trying to sound nonchalant. But if you bring broccoli, I'm locking the door. I'll see you at 7:30, he said, the smile evident in his voice. At 7:25 p.m., I was a nervous wreck. I had changed my outfit 4 times, finally settling on a pair of high-waisted jeans and a soft, oversized cream sweater that hung off one shoulder. It was casual, but intentional. I wanted to look effortless, even though I had spent 20 minutes agonizing over my lip gloss. When the knock came, I took a deep breath, smoothed down my sweater, and opened the door. Cole stood in the hallway, looking devastatingly handsome. He had ditched the white coat and scrubs for a pair of dark jeans and a fitted navy Henley that hugged his broad shoulders. He was holding 2 large brown grocery bags, and his dark hair was slightly messy, like he had run his hands through it a few times on the drive over. Hi, I breathed, stepping back to let him in. Hi, he replied, his eyes sweeping over me. A slow, appreciative heat gathered in his gaze. You look beautiful. You don't look so bad yourself for a guy who works 80 hours a week, I shot back, taking one of the bags from him. It was heavy. What did you buy? Half a cow? Salmon, actually, he said, following me into my small kitchen. And asparagus, quinoa, and a few other things that will hopefully convince your body it's not starving to death. I told you, no broccoli. Asparagus is a completely different vegetable, Ashley. It's just broccoli in a different font, I grumbled, setting the bag on the counter. For the next hour, my kitchen transformed into something out of a cooking show. Cole moved with the same precision he used in the hospital, chopping vegetables with terrifying efficiency and searing the salmon to absolute perfection. I sat on a bar stool, nursing a glass of water. He had confiscated my diet soda, and just watched him. It felt surreal. 2 days ago, I thought I would never see him again. Now, he was standing in my kitchen, rolling up his sleeves to reveal his forearms, cooking me a meal to fix the health issues my heartbreak over him had caused. When he finally set a plate in front of me, it looked like it belonged in a 5-star restaurant. Eat, he commanded gently, leaning against the counter opposite me. I took a bite of the salmon. It was incredible. Flaky, perfectly seasoned, melting in my mouth. I groaned, closing my eyes. Okay, fine. You win. This is amazing. I'm glad you approve. He watched me eat for a few minutes in comfortable silence. But as I finished half the plate, the atmosphere in the room shifted. The playful banter faded, replaced by the heavy, unresolved tension from the clinic. Cole reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He set it face down on the counter between us. We need to talk about the text, he said quietly. I stopped chewing, setting my fork down. The memory of that photo of me, laughing with some random guy outside a club, made a fresh wave of anger rise in my chest. Not at Cole, but at whoever had tried to sabotage us. Show it to me again, I demanded. Cole hesitated, then picked up the phone, unlocked it, and slid it across the counter. I stared at the screen. The number was blocked, routed through some cheap internet text app. The message attached to the photo was brief and venomous. She was never going to change for you, Dr. Jacobs. She's already back to her old habits and a new guy. Save yourself the trouble. I zoomed in on the photo. It was grainy, taken at night, illuminated by the neon lights of the club behind me. I analyzed the angle. It wasn't taken by a passing stranger. It was taken from across the street, deliberately framed. Cole, I said slowly, a cold realization dawning on me. Look at the timestamp on this text. He frowned, leaning closer to look at the screen. It was sent on October 14th. About 2 weeks after we broke up. Exactly, I said, tapping the screen. But look at what I'm wearing. Cole studied the photo. A black dress? It's not just a black dress. It's the dress I wore to Chloe's birthday party. That party was on September 28th. 3 days before we broke up. Cole went completely still. The color drained from his face as his sharp, analytical mind processed the timeline. I remember that night, I continued, my voice gaining strength. You were on call. I went to the club with Chloe to drop off her gift, stayed for exactly 1 hour, and then went home. That guy in the photo? He bumped into me on the sidewalk and stumbled. I grabbed his arm to stop him from falling. Someone took a picture of that exact split second and saved it. Cole ran a hand down his face, dragging his fingers through his hair. Someone took a picture of you before we broke up, waited 2 weeks, and sent it to me to make it look like you moved on. Yes. I pushed the phone back to him. Someone who knew we broke up. Someone who had your personal cell phone number. Someone who wanted to make sure you didn't try to get me back. Cole's jaw clenched so hard I thought his teeth might crack. He stared at the phone, his eyes narrowing as the pieces clicked into place. Who has your number, Cole? I asked softly. Who would want us apart this badly? He was silent for a long time. The only sound in the apartment was the faint hum of the refrigerator. When he finally looked up, his expression was a terrifying mix of realization and pure, icy rage. Dr. Evans, he said, the name dropping like a stone. Valerie Evans? I asked, my stomach dropping. Valerie Evans was a senior attending physician at Cole's hospital. She was brilliant, gorgeous, and terrifyingly ambitious. She was also the woman Cole's parents had been subtly, and sometimes not so subtly, pushing him to date since they were in med school together. I had only met her once, at a hospital fundraiser, and she had looked at me like I was a piece of gum stuck to her expensive heels. Why would she do that? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Because she's been trying to get me to transfer to her research team in Boston for 6 months, Cole said, his voice hard. She knows I won't leave the city if I have a reason to stay. If I have you. And, she's made it very clear in the past that she thinks a relationship between us makes sense for our careers. So she sabotaged us. Anger flared hot and bright in my chest. She manipulated you into thinking I was cheating so you'd pack up and leave. And it almost worked, Cole whispered, looking sick. He reached across the counter, his large hand covering mine. His grip was tight, desperate. Ash, I am so sorry. I should have seen through it. I should have trusted you enough to show you the text the second I got it. But I was so insecure about us. Insecure? I scoffed, though I didn't pull my hand away. You're a brilliant, gorgeous doctor. What do you have to be insecure about? Cole laughed, a harsh, self-deprecating sound. Are you kidding? You're a firecracker, Ashley. You're vibrant, you're spontaneous, you make every room you walk into light up. I spend 80 hours a week looking at charts and wearing sterile scrubs. I'm boring. I'm rigid. I thought it was only a matter of time before you realized you were wasting your youth on a guy who couldn't even take you out on a Friday night without his pager going off. I stared at him, utterly stunned. The great Dr. Cole Jacobs, the man who lectured me about my dietary choices with the confidence of a god, had been terrified I would leave him. "Cole," I said softly, sliding off the barstool. I walked around the kitchen island until I was standing right in front of him. I reached up, resting my hands flat against his chest. I could feel his heart pounding rapidly beneath the soft cotton of his shirt. "You're not boring. You're my anchor. When my life is chaotic, you're the one who makes me feel safe." I didn't want the party guys. I wanted the guy who forced me to drink ginger tea because he wanted me to live a long, healthy life. His breath hitched. He looked down at me, the walls he had built around himself completely crumbling. "I was so miserable without you," he confessed, his voice barely a whisper. He brought his hands up to cup my face, his thumbs gently stroking my cheekbones. I threw myself into work until I was practically collapsing. "I was so angry at you for moving on, but the truth was, I was just angry at myself for letting you go." "Don't let me go again," I whispered, rising slightly on my toes. "Never," he vowed. And then, finally, he kissed me. It wasn't a gentle, tentative kiss. It was an explosion. His mouth crashed down on mine, hungry and desperate, pouring 2 months of pain, longing, and repressed emotion into a single connection. I gasped into his mouth, my hands tangling in his dark hair, pulling him closer until there was absolutely no space between us. He groaned, wrapping his arms around my waist and lifting me effortlessly off the floor. He set me down on the edge of the kitchen counter, stepping between my knees. The cool granite was a sharp contrast to the burning heat radiating from his body. His lips left my mouth, trailing hot, open-mouthed kisses down my jawline and onto the sensitive skin of my neck. I arched my back, my fingers gripping his shoulders tight enough to bruise. Every nerve in my body was firing, every doubt and fear I'd harbored over the last 2 months burning away in the sheer intensity of his touch. "I love you," he murmured against my collarbone, the words vibrating against my skin. "I love you, Ashley." I never stopped. Tears pricked my eyes. I grabbed his face, pulling him back up to look at me. "I love you too, you idiot. Even when you thought I was pregnant with a spicy crawfish food baby." Cole let out a breathless laugh, resting his forehead against mine. "God, I was terrified yesterday. When you walked into that exam room, I thought my heart was going to stop. I had to put up the doctor facade because if I didn't, I would have dragged you out of there and begged you to take me back right in front of your mother. My mom would have loved that, honestly." He smiled, a real, radiant smile that reached his eyes. He kissed me again, slower this time, savoring the taste of me like he had all the time in the world. When we finally broke apart to breathe, I rested my head against his chest, listening to the steady, comforting beat of his heart. "So," I said quietly, playing with a button on his Henley. "What are we going to do about Dr. Evans?" I felt Cole's chest expand as he took a deep breath. When he spoke, the soft, loving tone was gone, replaced by the cold, calculating precision of a man who was used to cutting out a disease. "I'm going to ruin her," he said simply. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of vindication and reclaimed happiness. Cole didn't confront Valerie Evans immediately. He was too smart for that. Confronting her without solid proof would just lead to a he-said-she-said battle, and as a senior attending, she had the upper hand in hospital politics. Instead, Cole weaponized his analytical brain. He hired a private investigator to trace the IP address of the spoofed number that sent the text. It didn't take long to connect it to a burner phone purchased at a convenience store 2 blocks from the hospital. The security footage from the store was blurry, but the timestamp matched, and the woman buying the phone was unmistakably Valerie, wearing her signature trench coat. But Cole didn't stop there. He started digging into her professional record. If she was willing to manipulate a colleague's personal life to secure a transfer to Boston, what else was she willing to falsify? Turns out, a lot. It took 3 weeks, but Cole found discrepancies in her clinical trial data. Small things at first, fudged patient demographics, altered dates, but it added up to a massive ethics violation. She had been doctoring her research to secure the Boston Fellowship. On a rainy Tuesday afternoon, Cole walked into the chief of medicine's office and dropped a thick, meticulously organized binder of evidence on his desk. I was sitting in Cole's car in the hospital parking garage, waiting for him. When he finally walked out of the sliding glass doors, he didn't look angry or vindictive. He just looked free. He slid into the driver's seat, rain glistening in his dark hair. He turned to me and let out a long, heavy exhale. "Well?" I asked, practically vibrating in my seat. "She's suspended pending a full board review," Cole said, starting the engine. "Her fellowship in Boston has been revoked." The chief was furious. "She'll be lucky if she gets to keep her medical license." I let out a loud whoop, leaning over the center console to throw my arms around his neck. "You did it. You took down the evil queen of cardiology." Cole laughed, wrapping his arms around me and burying his face in my neck. "I didn't do it for the hospital, Ash. I did it because she tried to take you away from me. Nobody messes with my girl." "Your girl," I repeated, liking the sound of it. I pulled back, looking into his eyes. "Does this mean you're stuck in this city with me?" "I am happily anchored to this city," he corrected, stealing a quick kiss. "And tonight, to celebrate, I am taking you out. Anywhere you want. No lectures, no calorie counting. You want spicy crawfish? We get spicy crawfish. You want to go to a club? We go to a club." I stared at him, genuinely shocked. "Are you feeling okay? Should I check your temperature? Dr. Jacobs is offering to take me to a club." "I'm compromising," he smiled, putting the car in drive. "You gave up everything for me. It's my turn to step into your world." We didn't end up going to a club. Instead, we compromised. We went to a bustling, loud night market downtown. The air was thick with the smell of fried food, spices, and exhaust, illuminated by rows of bright neon signs. It was chaotic, loud, and entirely unsterile. Cole looked mildly terrified as I dragged him through the throngs of people, but he didn't complain once. He held my hand in a vice grip, his eyes constantly scanning the crowd like a bodyguard, but a small smile never left his face. I bought a massive paper boat of spicy fried crawfish, a giant cup of overly sweet bubble tea, and a skewer of grilled squid. We sat on a concrete bench near the edge of the market, watching the people go by. I watched Cole eye the bright red, grease-covered crawfish with mild horror. "You don't have to eat it," I laughed, bumping my shoulder against his. "I know it violates every nutritional law you hold dear." Cole looked at me, then at the crawfish. He sighed, rolled up his sleeves, and reached into the basket. He cracked open a shell, extracted the meat, and popped it into his mouth. His eyes widened slightly as the spice hit him. He coughed, his face turning a little red, and immediately reached for my bubble tea, taking a massive gulp. "Oh my God, the sodium," he wheezed, his eyes watering. "That is aggressively unhealthy. But it tastes good, right?" I grinned. He looked at me, his eyes softening despite the tears of spice. "It tastes incredible." We sat there for another hour, sharing terrible food and talking about everything and nothing. I told him about my ridiculous new boss at the PR firm, and he told me about a hilarious mix-up in the ER involving a guy who had accidentally glued his hands to a bowling ball. It was perfect. It was messy, it was loud, and it was real. As the night began to wind down and the stalls started packing up, Cole stood up, pulling me to my feet. The neon lights cast a warm, pink glow over his face. "Ashley," he said, his voice turning suddenly serious. He reached into his pocket. My heart skipped a beat. For a wild second, I thought he was going to pull out a ring. But instead, he pulled out a small, rectangular piece of plastic. He held it out to me. It was a key. "My lease is up next month," Cole said, looking uncharacteristically nervous. And I was thinking, I spend most of my free time at your place anyway. And your kitchen is too small for me to properly cook you salmon. So, I was hoping you might want to look for a place together. A place with a big kitchen. I stared at the key in his hand, a massive wave of emotion crashing over me. We had been through hell over the last 2 months. We had nearly lost each other to insecurities, miscommunications, and outside sabotage. But standing here, in the middle of a loud, dirty night market, I had never felt more secure in my entire life. "Are you sure?" I asked softly, looking up at him. Living with me means dealing with my reality TV shows, my late-night snacking, and my absolute refusal to fold laundry immediately after it comes out of the dryer. Cole smiled, stepping closer and wrapping his arms around my waist. "I can handle the laundry. And I can handle the reality TV. I can handle anything, as long as I get to come home to you." I reached out and took the key, closing my hand tightly around it. "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, I'll move in with you." Cole let out a breath he seemed to have been holding for a week. He leaned down and kissed me, a soft, lingering promise that sent warmth spreading all the way to my toes. But just for the record, I murmured against his lips, "You're still not allowed to throw away my instant ramen stash." "We'll negotiate," he chuckled, kissing me again. As we walked back to his car, hand in hand, I looked up at the starless city sky. I wasn't the broken, heartbroken girl sitting in a sterile exam room anymore. I wasn't the wild child trying to pretend I didn't care. I was Ashley. And I was exactly where I belonged, holding the hand of a perfectly rigid, infuriatingly handsome doctor who loved my chaos just as much as I loved his calm. And this time, nothing was going to tear us apart.